Good morning, everybody. It is Enchanted April, day 10. I have just been playing with lighting. Oh my gosh, all the skills we get to learn to be effective in 2020. I hope you guys are having a beautiful, sweet morning. To those of you who celebrate Easter, this is Good Friday. May it be a blessed day for you. To everyone who is celebrating Passover, may that be a wonderful, joyful time, even in the oddity that 2020, at least early 2020, is proving to be. So I first have some thank yous to share with all of you. The first goes out to Kathy Kavlik, who told me yesterday when I was saying, what are you guys going to be cooking, that she was going to make cheapish chili from my book, Main Street Vegan. And I realized, you know what, I can make cheapish chili because I actually have the ingredients for that. So thank you, Kathy. Last night, I did make it. I had all the ingredients almost, so I was able to saute the onions and the garlic, and then I put in the spices, the cumin and the cayenne. I also used cilantro because I like that. I know not everybody does, even my daughter doesn't like it. Hi, everybody. And then I put in some dried parsley. Now, here's a little secret. This is something that I've learned. Deirdre from way over in the UK. Good morning. So I didn't know this when I was writing Main Street Vegan, so it's not in the basic recipe, but I have learned that if you put some cocoa powder or some cacao powder, which I believe is cocoa powder that hasn't been roasted, into chili, it just adds something. So not a lot, you don't want chocolate chili, but I put in maybe 2 teaspoons, and I don't know, it just seems to be special. And then very simple, I hardly ever use cans, but I sure use them for cheapish chili. So I had pink beans and black beans. Didn't have red beans or kidney beans, but you know, it's chili, it's beans, whatever. And some canned tomatoes. And then I didn't have bell pepper, but I had a bag of frozen peas. So those went in, and my husband, bless his heart, who really loves cheapish chili, said it was the best ever. So that's nice. I'm very blessed to be married to somebody who says such beautiful, sweet things after these 23 years of marriage. So my second thank you goes out to Chef Del Sroufe. You, I'm sure, know him because he wrote the New York Times bestseller, The Forks Over Knives cookbook. And he is also known as the inventor of this fabulous, completely whole food plant-based cheese sauce. It doesn't even come from cashews, which is how I usually make it. And so I do have some macaroni, and I'm thinking this would be a good night for mac and cheese. And then I realized I have no cashews for my standard sauce, and I don't have potatoes or carrots to do Del's fabulous sauce. So I messaged him this morning and said, I have canned tomatoes, I have tahini, and I have cannellini beans. And he wrote back, because you know, these people that know about food, they just know what to do with it. So he said, use a can of the beans, use, I think he said 2 tablespoons of the tomatoes, maybe 3. I'll put this on Facebook when I post this video. I'll put all those amounts. And then 1 or maybe it was 2 tablespoons of the tahini, and then add some nutritional yeast or some miso. And I was just stunned how he can take what's in my kitchen and figure out what to do with it. I took a raw food class once, and I learned that the difference between the really foodie people and me was that they could look in the crisper and see a banquet, where I had just looked in there and all I saw was the 2 things we didn't have. So it's wonderful to share gifts with one another. And finally, number 3 thank you goes out to everybody who subscribes to the Main Street Vegan newsletter, because I wanted to do something inspiring for them. And so I put together a list of my dazzling dozen top 12 motivational and inspirational musical go-tos with YouTube links. So if you don't subscribe to the newsletter, newsletter, please do. We're holding off today. We're not going to send it until 2:30 p.m. U.S. East Coast time. So you can subscribe and get in on that. And as I was sharing it last night with my husband, he was reminding me of the ones that I left out. So maybe I'll do another one next week. But the thank you is that because there are people out there that read my stuff, thank you, oh my goodness, that in itself is amazing, that I have a reason to enrich my own life. It's very cool. That goes around and comes around. So as I was putting together this list of musical offerings, I was listening to these fabulous songs and I couldn't sit down, because when you're listening to a song that was made to be danced to, you just have to dance. So I realized that as hard as it's been for me to get up and actually get aerobic kind of fitness during this Corona time, I love dancing to Broadway show tunes. So I actually ordered myself some vegan jazz shoes, and I'm just going to be dancing up a storm, and that is thanks to all my subscribers and lovely friends like you, so thank you. So the quotation for the day from Creating a Charmed Life says, happiness comes from accepting the present situation, whether it's something you wish to savor for as long as possible or change as quickly as you can. Now, I know that we talked about acceptance in day 8. I guess I write about the same things over and over again. I'll bet every writer says that. And so I don't want to focus quite so much on acceptance today as on that word savor. To savor something for as long as you can. So I know right now we're accepting, okay, we're inside, we're living differently from the way that we usually do. And yet, what about what's really sweet about it? Can you savor it? Because sometimes I find it's a little bit easier to accept the things that are kind of tough than to really accept the wonderful things. Maybe because I think they're not going to last long enough. I remember getting massages. Remember massages? I was talking to my daughter yesterday, and she was saying, I really miss massages, because you know, you just can't get that any way other than person to person. And sometimes I'd be getting a delightful, delicious, amazing massage and just thinking, it's going to end. Well, yeah, but then something else magical can happen. So I really want today to get into savoring as well as accepting. So something else I'd love to share with you all today, I just got from being on somebody else's webinar. This is a wonderful psychologist here in New York City. Her name is Sherry Amatenstein, and the webinar was sponsored by the American Society of Journalists and Authors. If you happen to be a freelance writer and you're not yet part of the ASJA, I highly recommend them. They're a wonderful organization. And they do things like this for their members. So I just want to pass along to you a couple of things that I learned this morning. And one of those is a technique. If you're feeling stressful, if you're feeling anxious, give yourself 5 minutes, says Sherry Amatenstein, to indulge the fear. Just sit there and just like, yep, it's terrible, it's awful, I'm scared, the sky is going to fall. And see that even though it doesn't feel good, you survived it. You've given it its 5 minutes. You know, we're allowed 15 minutes of fame, 5 minutes to indulge the fear, and then go on with this wonderful strength that is inside you. She also said, remember the strengths that got you through stuff in the past. Congratulate yourself, praise yourself, and be proud of yourself. So, hey, Ashley Piper in Chicago, wonderful vegan beauty expert. Thanks for being on this morning. So if you guys would like to just post, what can you congratulate yourself for? What are you really proud of? What qualities inside have you drawn on to get through difficult stuff before this? I'd love to see it, because you know, that kind of inspiration and learning from one another, it is every bit as contagious as that coronavirus, but in a good way. And finally, the third thing that was very, very helpful that I got from Sherry Amatenstein was to focus on one thing at a time. She said, root yourself in reality, because the mind can only really focus on one thing. And when you're trying to just be all over the place, it invites anxiety. So if your dog jumps in your lap, just focus on that wonderful, miraculous thing for that moment, or anything that you can pinpoint to focus on. She said that actual studies have shown that needlework, people who knit, people who crochet, have this wonderful mitigation of their stress because of that focus on one thing. And some of you that know me know that I'm really crazy about aerial yoga. Now, my daughter is actually a professional aerialist, my daughter Adair, who's holing up in Vermont right now. But when she's able to work, she does stunt work and aerial work. And so when I talk about aerial yoga, where this little silk is like 2 or 3 feet from the floor, it's not anything like what she does, but even just that much. Okay, so I'm only 3 feet from the floor, but if I'm not completely focused on what I'm doing right this minute, I could fall on my head. And just in that focus, in that requirement of focusing, I just feel present and happy and content. Ken is saying, if one is open to receive, I found this article immensely helpful when it comes to releasing fear, and he's given us a link, so thanks, Ken. Thank you so much. I know I'm doing more reading than usual, and I always read a lot. So let's see what else is going on. Oh, I wanted to talk a little bit about people who see things differently. Do you have people in your world who see things differently from you? I know we all do, and what I'm seeing as this particular event continues to unfold in the world, that some people that I agree with on a whole lot of things seem to be taking views on this that I disagree with. And so what do we do with that? And again, this wonderful psychologist this morning was helping address that too. She was saying that you can only control yourself. And that as much as we think, well, I see things rationally, I see things clearly, I'm going to lay it out so that you will think like I think, that doesn't really do a whole lot. That it's just more about allowing people to be on their path. If you don't want to read what they're talking about, then just don't look at that. But that this of all times is not a time to say, if you say any more of that crazy stuff, I'm going to unfriend you. And I have to say, I've been a little bit tempted to say stuff like that sometimes, but I'm just feeling now that today, the really important thing on this Easter weekend, this Passover week, this beautiful month in which nature is opening up and nature's coming back. I was reading some posts today about how many more animals are out and about. My daughter told me yesterday she saw a nuthatch, and that nuthatches are rather rare, but there was one. Maybe because we're not putting out as much pollution and taking up so much space. So anyway, in this beautiful, gorgeous time, can we just know that everybody's trying to do the best they can, and so are we. So let me just look here. Rachel Cook, hi Rachel. I congratulate myself every day on 2 happy, healthy, vegan children whom I have allowed to be their own special people. Oh my gosh, that is so beautiful. You remind me of that quotation from Jacqueline Kennedy when she said something to the effect of, no matter what you accomplish in life, if you've failed with your kids, the rest doesn't amount to much. And again, even that phase, fail with your kids. How can we fail? Because people are who they are, and they're going to be who they're going to be. But to be able to look at your children and say, oh wow, I'm proud of you, you're doing great, is a wonderful, wonderful feeling. Hey Allison from Bloomington, Indiana, and thank you for these events. You're welcome. And thank you so much. They mean a lot to me, just to know that I'm going to get to come here every morning and connect with you guys who are so beautiful and wonderful and awesome. So I hope that if you don't yet, Carol Shiflett, hey, one of my longest time friends. I used to say oldest friends, but that doesn't necessarily sound good. A friend that I have had for a very long time. So thanks to everybody for being here. If you don't already subscribe to the Main Street Vegan newsletter, do go to mainstreetvegan.net. And where it says, want to be a Main Street Vegan? Say, yeah, heck, I do. And then you'll be subscribed and you'll be able to get that wonderful list of songs. And who knows, maybe by this evening, we'll have all ordered jazz shoes. Love you all. Take care. Bye.